Welcome to the GWA Wingfoiling World Tour event.
We're gonna experience an insane wingfoil competition.
This one is gonna stay in my mind forever.
It's gonna be sick.
What are we going to be seeing next?
MDJS, faire gagner le sport.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to DAKHLA, Morocco. Aiden, welcome to DAKHLA. Looking like we got some conditions out there.
We sure do. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. It's 4th year I've been coming here, and I'm stoked to be back.
Yeah, conditions are looking, it is a little bit on the smaller side. We've probably got about knee to hip high waves at the moment. They say with the tide, it is going to be able to push a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to get the action that this right-hand point break of West Point. We've seen it in years before. Let's see if we can have it again.
100%, as you said, the swell's been a little bit on the smaller side, but the guys are making it work, and they're making it rip out there, and I'm actually pretty excited.
From Brazil, Camille Boyer from France, and Tom Aubert from France.
There we go. It's going to be interesting to see who can pull ahead and who's really put the work in over the last sort of time. Little flick into the white water, that making sure that you keep the speed and
All right, so there you can see on your screen Vinicius Martins from Brazil. Let's not forget we are here for the GWA Wingfoil World Cup in Morocco, and it is so cool to be back. A little bit kind of an update on what is happening out there when it comes to rankings. People definitely to look out for. We have Malo Genole, who is currently in...
Bash has been ripping recently. His latest video that he did from South Africa just blew minds on what is possible, and then his Cape Verde just sort of taking it and seeing what's possible was pretty cool.
There in Cape Verde where we saw some of the best. Yeah, it's tides at the moment are a little bit on the, especially on that inside section where it kind of, how it happens over here in West Point, over all the way on the top right hand side you have a little bit of a steep section, then it flattens out, and then on the inside is where it gets a little hollower. Obviously waves are small at the moment, so they really have to be careful to be able to time it right, because if not there will be some sections they could touch the bottom.
100%. It's going to be interesting to see how they make it work in these conditions and what foils.
Alright, so where we can see conditions a little bit on the light side, we've got about 15 to 18 knots is the reading we have today. It is hot, it's nice and sunny, we've got the clear water out there right in front of the West Point Hotel here for your DAKHLA World Cup. And as we're just getting into the action, as we have 18-minute heats, 2-minute transitions, top 2 waves will count, they have a 12 wave count. Let's go and catch up with Alvaro Nieva, our head judge, to see the judging criteria.
My name is Alvaro Nieva. I'm the head judge for the wing waves here in DAKHLA 2024. Judging criteria basically is going to be based on commitment, the degree of difficulty of the maneuvers, together with the commitment, with the taking a risk factor. Everything must done on the critical side of the pocket of the wave, but of course combining also with variety. On this particular spot here at West Point, we have a long run of wave, so we need to see of how competitors are connecting through the different sections, combining all kind of tricks, re-entries with cutbacks, with good connections, of course, with ended up with the air tricks, and I guess that's going to be the action for today.
Well, there you go. That's what our head judge Alvaro Nieva is asking for. So commitment, power, fluidity, joining those sections, and especially here that this wave at West Point, as we said, kind of has 3 little sections. If you can link those with a little bit of style, you're going to get the highest scores, but I mean, it is marginal out there.
It is very, and it is definitely going to be that wave selection is going to play a big factor in how you can actually get those scores. Those bigger sets, even if they're only slightly bigger, are going to make a big difference in your overall scoring.
Yeah, so out on the water, Vinicius Martin, Camille Bouillet, Tom Aubert. Then coming up next, we're going to have Austin Kalama, Leon Schell, and Wesley Brito. So those are going to be the athletes getting ready for the next heat. At the moment, it does look like Vinny is in the lead, the Brazilian athlete out there with the blue lycra, rocking up the Neil Pride gear. But there is definitely a score is about to be dropped for Tom Aubert. Looks like he's going to be taking that lead.
Looks like a good score's coming in there for Tom. We're going to see that come up shortly. He really is making the most of these waves. We have Camille out on the outside there on the RD gear, and it looks like a set could just be building there. He's looking to find it. Maybe this next one or the one after. There he goes. Can he make this one work? Oh, Vinny's on a nice one on the inside there.
Yeah, Vinny definitely known for his surfing style. Also a very good big wave surfer as well. Looks like he's actually rocking up quite a long mast there.
He is. Which we saw a little bit earlier. It looked a little bit shallow for that. But he's making that work now. And it really allows you those longer masts to get that critical turn without breaching that tip as much. So that just sort of gives you a little bit more control when you need it. And especially with those wider span foils that you're probably going to be riding on a smaller wave day like this, it's going to give them a little bit more control.
Yeah, catching up with, I caught up with a few of the riders this morning. We'll be dropping in some of the interviews we had with them earlier. One of the things they're saying is that foils have definitely evolved from last season that they were here to this season. For example, Malo Genole last year, he was on the 700. Now this year, he's going to be going out on the 600. They can see the more of the maneuverability to be able to get through those sections where they need to be pumping a bit more, but also to be able to have that fluidity. Obviously, Aiden, you're seriously involved in the R&D and the development of foils. Talk it through a little bit with us here, because obviously, you know, challenging conditions, gear is going to be a key factor as well.
100%. There's been a massive improving and not be to the max. As you can see, Camille's just trying to make it around that section. You're allowed to use the wing to make it around the section and to put some power into your foil. But then realistically, you want to be letting go of that. And as soon as you release off the foil into the air, you can't do any aerial with holding on to the wing. That's had a big conversation about that in the riders briefing this morning.
Yeah, there was definitely some ins and outs with that one. I think it's an interesting decision as well, because, you know, this does come from wingfoiling is a join of a lot of different sports. You know, it has the surfing aspect, it has the flying aspect, let's say, of the kiting, but then obviously being some kind of a triangle, it also does look like the windsurfing. And coming in on wave riding, there's kind of two different sections out there right now. Your typical where they grab the wing by the neutral handle and really do the carving and open face kind of real hydrofoil surfing, or some of the athletes are starting to try and surf the waves like a wingsurfer, holding onto the power. Ups and downs, lefts and rights. But I mean, such a new sport, there's obviously going to be different directions.
100%. And there's so many different conditions that are optimized for how you can ride, and different waves are going to make certain maneuvers seem more practical and certain maneuvers not. And it's all about the creativity. Some of these riders really driving that creativity side and seeing what's possible that they can do on a foil. And I think that's what's really cool in these small days, is those are tricky conditions for anyone, and they're also relatively easy conditions for anyone to get out in. So to be able to see what these riders can put down in those conditions, knowing that they can go back at home and this is what you can actually put down in this size.
Yeah, I mean, that is always the factor as well. Of course, we want to be at perfect, you know, point breaks with, you know, double over the head, barreling waves. But, you know, the reality of everybody who does do the sport is they don't have that at their doorstep. That is their holiday paradise dream. The reality is, you know, if we're lucky, everybody has that kind of cross on shore mush about hip high, you know, shoulder high, and you need to, you know, have the gear to be able to enjoy that, because end goal, I think, for any brand or any athlete or any, you know, enthusiast of the sport is to always have fun out there.
Oh, 100%. And this kind of shows them what's possible to do with their gear in these conditions. And most of these guys are all, well, pretty much everything I've seen here seems like production stuff. So they're all practical and you can buy it on the market. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's one of the important things as well is that, you know, have a lot of the athletes, and I think a lot of the brands do stand by this, is that the athletes use gear that is accessible to the end consumer. Yep. Because, you know, for example, you know, yourselves with Armstrong, I want to go, hey, you know, I'm using what Cash is using. Obviously, my equipment is faulty because I can't do what he does, but that's besides the point. But, you know, you want the end consumer to be able to have a look and say, hey, you know, this athlete is similar build, similar level to me. He's using it in DAKHLA. What's he on? Is he on a 600? Is he on a 700? Is he on a 65, an 85, a 90? What literage is he using? To be able to go into a shop and go, that's what I saw Cash use. That's what I saw Nathan use. This is what I did here. Those are the gear I know is going to work. I think it's, you know, it's really important also for brands to really be pushing that as well, because in the end it's the end consumers that makes the industry go forward.
100%, and I fully agree with you there. And it's pretty cool to be like, seeing interviews of these guys riding what they're riding and then being like, I can buy that.
Exactly.
I can go to that shop and maybe it's not that size, but the next size up does suit me.
And here we can see Cami over there on the RRD, a little bit of the Alula, a little bit of the gold coming through. Also, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be out there on the Beluga, probably 45 litre, would you say? It looks like a smaller board.
Yeah, those boards are quite compact. I'm pretty sure they ride around sort of the 50-ish litre. A lot of the guys do here just so you don't get caught on that inside. It's something you don't want to be.
Oh, breaching there. Nice. Sliding it out, as we were mentioning, to still keeping the hands on that power zone. And Cammy, very talented surfer. We've seen him in Cape Verde with some really good results and very good on the surf freestyle as well. And milking this one as much as possible.
He really was. He went all the way through, and as you can see, he's right on the sand there, so took it as far as he could.
Next stop will be a red button that gets old wheels on the floor and then just ride it all the way up the beach. But yeah, Camille Bouillet there. Just under 6 minutes to go. This is day number 1 down here for the GWA Wingfoil World Cup in Dakhla, Morocco. This right-hand point break over here in front of the West Point Hotel. And here we can see that little replay of Camille Bouillet with a couple of nice turns there. Let's not forget 12 wave attempts. It's a decent amount of waves to be able to, do inside that 18-minute heat. But top 2 ones are the ones that are going to count. We saw their head judge Alvin Onyeva telling us the ins and outs of what they want to see.
100%, and I think it's really about in these guys getting those early heats in, getting 2 waves in that you're comfortable with, you feel good, and then sort of building it and starting to be selective on what waves you choose and how critical you can really get.
And here Tom Aubert also, a duotone athlete coming out of France. This is that flat section in between the waves. I mean, it is marginal to say the least. I reckon we need to go to the point, throw a couple of stones and see if some ripples start to come through. But you can see he started on the wave all the way up on the point. Then that flat section where he's pretty much just ridden through has now come to this second part of the wave where, hopefully they'll be able to get a few turns. Wave selection, when conditions are challenging, wave selection is so important because far and few between at the moment. Probably once every blue moon a set comes through. If you can land a good set and get a few turns in, you're going to have a huge advantage over the other athletes.
100%, and it's looking like these waves, it's not as much on the sets, it's more those ones that are going to filter all the way through. We're sort of seeing a couple of them have size at the start, but they're not going through, and that's sort of the important part here. Looks like Vinny's on a good one here, so we'll watch him rip on that.
Yeah, Vinny, one of the things I really love about Vinny, he's just like cool, easy, laid back style. Obviously, coming from Brazil, surfing is part of their heritage. The guys from down there, and then Vinny having a big background in big waves and, just really in the water day in and day out. And also, the likes of him, Miso, also all of the Brazilian crew. It's really cool to see athletes. We've got more than 24 athletes on the men's side. We've got 11 athletes on the women's side from all different corners of the world joining us here. Had more than 60 applicants to come into this event, so Dakhla always very popular. 300 days of wind a year.
That's insane, and we always know that we pretty much get wind most days we're here. It's a wave, and as any sport, waves are a tricky thing to make sure you get. They take a little bit more time to generate and the right angle and everything, so we're lucky we've got what we got at the moment, and let's hope it builds over the next few days and we see some really good competition going on.
Yeah, it's looking like on the 1st and the 2nd at the moment, the forecast, it's actually being pushed forward a bit. It was the 2nd and the 3rd, and now it's looking the 1st and the 2nd. So I reckon from maybe tomorrow or the next day, definitely the waves are picking up. Obviously, let's not forget we've got a dingle form out there at the moment. So round number 1, nobody loses because they still have the repechage in round number 2. So important to start to push the competition forward. Obviously, a lot of these athletes, they haven't competed in the waves since Cape Verde. So nice to get the old cobwebs off and get into the river.
100%. And I was talking to, as we spoke about, Vinny with his surf style. He's really put a lot of work in the last year. He was chatting to me about spending a lot of time in the waves and really working on his flow and control there. And you can really see from last year to this year, he's really upped his level. So it's cool to see, and it's cool to also see these other boys. Camille's been on the tour a long time, and he's really got that nice flow, nice connection. And Tom was here last year as well and competed really well. So it's going to be cool to see how these boys put down in the rest of the scores.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fair and few between. We're just coming in under 2 minutes at the moment. It looks like definitely Tom Aubert is going to be our top athlete, so we're just waiting for scores to update there. So it does look like the Frenchman, your duotone athlete, is going to be currently in first position, and then Camille Bouillet also is going to be way up there. It's very close in between these two, just waiting for the update there on the score. So they're right on your screen, right hand side, duotone Tom Aubert front and center with the RRD, Camille Bouillet. Two very talented riders, and yeah, they're really right up on the point. They are looking for that little floater to come through. So, I mean, it is, Aiden, it is, I'm not going to say ankle, I'm going to say toe height out there at the moment. These guys are really having to scavenge for waves. This is why heats are longer as well, 18 minutes. You've probably got a set every 10 minutes at the moment, 7 to 8. So that's why we want minimum them to be able to have 2 sets just coming up on that 30-second. But yeah, tough conditions.
And they're really fighting to see whatever will come in this last sort of 30 seconds, trying to get one more, be super aggressive with this last wave, and just trying to see what the judges are going to give them in score-wise. It's going to be interesting for them to all come back and analyse this so that they can figure out for their next rounds what they're looking for and what they need to work on.
Yep, so there we have it. At the moment, just waiting for scores to drop, but it does look like it is 100% going to be in between Tom Albert and Camille Bouillet. Those top two. Winner goes through to round number 3, and then the bottom losers are going to be going into what I like to call the dungeon of round number 2. So there it is. Red flag is back up. Heat number 1 over here for the GWA Wingfoil DAKHLA World Cup. Let's have a little look at the highlights. And welcome back, everybody, as we are here for the GWA Wingfoil World Cup in DAKHLA. Heat number 1 already done. We are going to be moving on to heat number 2. Austin Kalama, Leon Schell, and Wesley Brito are going to be the boys that are throwing down, as we like to say, batting it out against themselves and Mother Nature.
Exactly. This is going to be a good heat. We haven't seen Austin Kalama compete before, and Wesley Brito was the champion overall of last year. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who can pull it out and what they can throw down.
Yeah, obviously, Wesley, he's well known for his power. Black Mamba, he goes by. He's very powerful, one of the biggest rider. I'm going to say the biggest rider on tour. That boy's at least 100 kilos. Then, of course, Austin Kalama, as you can see out there on the Nash in the blue. Great to see him coming here and joining us here for the first time on the GWA Wingfoil World Tour.
100%.
And then, obviously, in the orange, I do apologize, is going to be Leon Shell from the UK. Youngster, up-and-coming ripper.
Exactly. There is, we've got Austin as a big wave surf. We've got Wesley as a last year's champion, and it's going to be interesting to see what Leon. Oh, nice Wesley throws a 360, lands that back. Oh, couldn't quite pull out of that.
Yeah, trying. I mean, Wesley, he's been a world champion himself. He also, first event win ever he had was in Cape Verde. That beach went wild. The energy that comes from that place, and you obviously, another thing to take into account, backside riding here. Gonna have, obviously, I think it's fair to say it is more difficult to get into the critical section to be able to hit those maneuvers, but obviously frontside athletes are going to have a bit of an advantage, but that is the reason why, over the space of a year in a tour, you have regular foot and goofy foot preferences.
100%. And watching them, they ride with a different style. It's unique in its own sense when you ride backside in comparison to frontside, and it's just, I think the judges are working out how they reward that, and that's really cool to see, and they're really pushing it.
So, as we said before, 18-minute heats, 2-minute transitions here for this round number 1. Then when we move into round number 2, there's going to be an overlap system. So what is going to happen? Heats are going to be 20 minutes. The first 10 minutes of the heat, that heat is going to be by themselves. Then the second 10 minutes of the heat, the next heat is going to join them. And that way we're going to be able to push, because conditions are quite scarce, to say the least. As you can see out here on the screen, it is minimum at the moment. But, hey, this is a world tour. You've got to be able to do it in the good, the bad, the awesome, the great, the middle, all of the ends, and the athletes making the most of the conditions as they have. Round number 1, there are still repro charges, so no elimination process yet.
100%. Which is that's a good reason for overlapping and getting through those heats quickly in the early rounds. And Austin did throw a really nice wave on that last one there, and that was really interesting how he came back and really hit that white water, landing into the white water, but still having some control afterwards until it got a bit too shallow. He stopped and then came back out again. So we're going to see how the judges are going to reward that score.
I mean, obviously coming from a big water sport background himself, Kalama, that name is one of the names out there in the world when it comes to heritage from surfing, and it looks like the young whippersnapper, as my granddad would say, has definitely got that running through his veins.
100%, and definitely has that competition mindset, and interested to see what he can throw down and how he reads these waves.
All right, so there you can see that is going to be Leon just breaching at the start of this wave. So, okay, a little bit windsurf style. You can see keeping both hands, so keeping the power in the wing, not going into that neutral leading edge handle where they kind of float and really go into the surfing style. Those are the kind of the two differences of surf styles that we are starting to see in this one of the big what ifs on tour so far.
And I think the judges are really liking to see a mix of both.
Yes.
Using that style, but then also using the surf style. Leon's really held through on that the whole way through, so it's going to be interesting to see how they reward that as making that same style. There we go. Now he's changing as the wave picks up. So, nice. But it wasn't quite the wave he wanted all the way through there. So we'll see what the judges get for that. And
yeah, we saw some of the top scores from the previous heat was the 5.6s, if I'm not mistaken, coming in from Camille. We see 4s from Tom Albert, but that really was, as we heard before in the stream from Alvaro Nero, our head judge, really linking those sections together. As that tide is starting to push in, this is where we're going to start to see some of the better waves coming through. At least that is the idea.
Yeah.
Because we got, high tide, excuse me, we're probably about mid tide at the moment, so it is pushing up. So it is a lot more rocks than we had last year, as obviously the sandbanks and everything changing. So hopefully with that push of the tide, we're going to see a little bit more consistency come, but wave period is increasing tomorrow and the next day. So playing with what we have at the moment, but good to see some action out there.
100%. And we have a lot. I think it's a bit of a west swell coming in as well as that longer period. So that's going to drive in here a little bit more. We've got a little bit of a northeast swell at the moment, which is really wrapping around, and you're only getting it on certain periods. So hopefully when that swell comes a little bit more in from the west, we get a little bit more consistent and a little bit more drive all the way through into the bay.
Yeah, and just for you guys and girls back home to have a little overview of where we are standing at the moment. So 2024 GWA Wingfoiling World Cup here in DAKHLA. This second event of the wave season. At the moment, it was Malo Genole in first, Kasper Zoller in second, and Nathan Van Vruren in third position. On the women's side, Elena Moreno in first, Muna White in second, and Nia Suardias in third. So that is your top 3 places on the overall rankings so far. In this event, neither Nathan or Muna have made it, so there's definitely opportunities for the rest of the athletes to, put themselves a little bit further up on the leaderboard, and then obviously closing out the year over there in Brazil. So anything up for grabs. We're going to be really interesting to see Malo Genole. We caught up with him earlier this morning. Unfortunately, in July, he popped his shoulder, dislocated his shoulder over there in Fuerteventura. He is now back. That is a speedy recovery. That just shows how young they are, because they can come back from injury. And I was watching him warm up yesterday. The guy's got the flow, and one of the things that Malo is known for is his old school carving longboard style. You can really see, he's seriously in the downwinding. He's really, when you see him surfing, he's on those bigger, powerful turns, and looking forward to see if the French leader is in full force.
100%. And I watching him warm up. It didn't look like he had been prevented by that shoulder injury at all. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see what these guys can throw down. And I think he's in our heat 8 of the day, so he's going to be the last heat we're going to see. So.
All right, so yeah, it is official of that previous heat. It was Camille Bouillet with a 9.53 to take the win, 6.33 for Tom Aubert, and 6.03. So it's going to be Camille's going to be moving it through to round number 3, and a nice long wave here from Leo. Nice little roundhouse there off the top.
Really linking that up and showing us what's possible. That was really nice. A nice little wave all the way through, keeping pushing on.
Yeah, I must admit, I got mixed feelings of this dual hand on some of the power sections. I think you really have to make it work for it to look great. I mean, look at that. That's beautiful. Off the top, okay, he is straight lining it a little bit more, but he needs to do that to be able to get that speed conditions are marginal. So obviously, judges are going to take that into account. Then grabbing onto it to try and get a bit more power. I think, of course, a very new sport. We've seen it in kiting coming from windsurfing. We've seen it in windsurfing coming from surfing. You've got to push the boundaries to then take it back and take it in a direction that is going for everybody. So that's where the characters come in on tour. I mean, probably one of the biggest characters, Kasper Zoller. He is definitely one of the guys pushing that to then go into the airs of windsurfing style, breaching, coming off the top, getting that big height. One of the advantages that wingfoiling has, I'd say, over a lot of the other sports is the fact that they can fly as well. So it's finding that perfect balance to be able to, kind of determine that one road, because hey, all roads do lead to Rome. It just depends on the path you take.
100%, and I fully agree with you there. And seeing how they use that style, and Leon really held that to get powered up for it, but he didn't do anything with that power. So it's really going to come down to optimizing. Okay, as we come in here, how do I lay that down into something? Like, he did a really good first section there, and it would have been exciting to see him sort of make some creativity out of that. You're definitely seeing that's where Kasper Zoller, Finn, Malo, they're really good at optimizing those sections where there's nothing going on and just making something happen, and using their creativity to be like, what can we put in this space?
Yeah, and also I think it's one of the ways you can see the good athletes, the top athletes. They make it work no matter what. Yeah. Of course, some will be better, some will be worse ways, some will be amazing ways, but they make it work. If you are one of those top athletes, you are going to stand out, and I think that is one of the really important things. But you know what? While we're waiting for the guys to make their way back up to the point break, we caught up earlier with our tour manager, Tom Hartman, who gave us a little intro of where we are, what's happening, and what is going down here in DAKHLA.
Hello everybody, I'm Tom Hartman. I'm the tour manager of the GWA Wingfoil World Tour, and we are now here at our tour stop in Dakhla, Morocco, which has been already quite a traditional one for such a young tour, I would say. It was one of the first destinations that we came in when the tour was started a couple of years back, and now has kind of shown that it's one of the best places when it comes to the wave discipline. All the athletes love to come here. The wingfoil athletes, we had a huge number of registrations to enter this event. It's only limited to 24 people, so the selection of the top riders able to compete here in Dakhla, Morocco has been really tough. The selection was through videos, through seeding, wildcards, and now we got 24 men and 11 women from all over the world, Japan, Hawaii, Australia, any corner to compete here in Morocco. It's the second stop of the wave tour, so we got the first one already done in Cape Verde. This is the second stop. Now after here we're going to go to Ibiraquera, which is going to be the final stop of the wave discipline, each of them counting the same value for the tour rankings, meaning 1/3 of the scores you can do for towards the World Championship going to be taken here out of Dakhla. For sure it's going to be a hard fight. I mean, all the top favorites like Cash, Berzola, Malog, and all of the guys that won in the past are here. We are here on day one. Conditions are still a little bit smaller, but we hope to get a bit more swell throughout the week. It's a super long right-hander wave, probably the longest we have on tour. It's a 300-meter long right-hander. Down the point you can see the waves lining up at the West Point DAKHLA Hotel. And then ideally on the big sets, the guys pick up a wave and ride it all the way down to the beach when the swell is bigger. At the moment the tide is still pretty high, which means the waves are soft, and with getting the tide lower, the waves are going to steep up and get better. As I said, we have more swell throughout the rest of the week, hopefully. And yeah, the wind is on. We're about to kick off, and I can't wait to see the action. We have a couple of new competitors that haven't been on tour yet that's going to be showing up here for the first time, which are quite promising, so don't miss it.
And welcome back, everybody, as we are here in Dakhla, Morocco, as we have the heat out there on the water. Is Austin Kalama, Leon Schill, and Wesley Brito. So far, it is going to be Leon in the lead with a 9.86. And then in second position, we're going to have Kalama with 9.25. So anybody's game out there at the moment, just coming up on a little bit over 3 minutes to go. 18-minute heats, 2-minute transitions, 12 waves each, top 2 count. Pretty easy.
Exactly. It's going to be exciting to see, and these guys are pushing it, and they're really making the most of these conditions. Look at that little one that Austin's on at the moment. What's he going to... Oh! Got a little shallow there as you pushed on that inside.
Yeah, you can see it is about hip height there at the moment. Has a little look to make sure everything is okay. It does look like it. Risking, hey, you got to risk it if you want the biscuit. That's how it goes.
These boys are pushing it, that is for sure.
Yeah, all the way down there. I mean, Aidan, one of the questions that comes up on the stream a lot is, what is the generic gear you could get to be able to ride in all conditions? What are you looking for in a wing, and what are you looking for in a foil? Because, of course, best of the best on the water now, but their quivers are huge. the end consumer, the people, your average Joe back home who just wants to have one setup to be able to do everything, what would you recommend?
It's a tricky one there. It's kind of like we just reference it to, bikes is an easy sport. You got mountain biking, road cycling, track cycling. You got 3 different disciplines that use completely different equipment.
Very much so.
And as much as we want to cross them all over and be like, this can be used in this, optimally there is a better gear for certain conditions. And depending on your experience and your skill level, whether you're starting out or you're actually getting into it or making the next steps, there's going to be a different setup for you. So it's hard to go, hey, one point, but the best thing is if you see a brand that's really interested in you, like that you're interested in, get in contact with them. Ask them, what do I need? Chat to some of your friends, chat to some of your mates that are getting into it, and there's a lot of forums online too that will chat through and help you figure out what gear you need and where to get started. And as you get started, that's probably the hardest part, and then as we advance, we start to figure out, okay, now that works. I'm actually really interested in waves, or really interested in behind the boat wake, and starting off the pros and seeing what they ride and the brands, that's a good point to start at, and then you're going to figure out what gear you need for your conditions and the environment you ride in generally.
Yeah, I think it's also really important as well that like you're saying there is knowing what you want to be progressing to. The starting off point definitely has to be, especially as the gear is so specific to help you enjoy that initial approach into a sport, is go to a certified school. Yeah, going into a certified school, learning properly will help you so much in the future of your sport. It is crazy. We've all had a mate who's don't worry, I'll show you the ropes. Ladies and gentlemen, don't do it. Go to a certified school, at least for that first section, because the equipment is so specific. It's actually equipment you won't use probably after that first month of learning.
100%. And there is 2 phases in that, Joe. And it is that gear that you probably won't use, but at the same time, the way we're moving forward and we're starting to see foils now, a lot of people go back to those foils and use them as progression friendly. Your mate's going to get into it. We look at windsurfing in the 80s, and 1 in 4 households in Europe had a windsurfer. Like, are we going to get close to those numbers again? Your gear that you're going to have, it might be the end of you using it, but somebody else might need it after you. So there's definitely, and your progression rates, everyone is different. Have you come from a lot of board sports? Have you not? Have you come from wind sports? Have you not?
Yeah, no, I think it is really important, but in the end is to, remember just to always enjoy your sessions out there. So that was heat number 2. As we can see at the moment, it was Leon Schiller just waiting for that last wave of climb, but that isn't going to be. So it is going to be looking like Leon, unless anything changes. Yes, so it is going to be Leon who is going to be advancing into round number 3. And then into round number 2 is going to be Austin Kalama and Wesley Breeder. While we're waiting, let's grab a couple of highlights until we start with heat number 3. Welcome back, everybody, as we're going to be going into heat number 3 here for the GWA Wingfoil World Cup in DAKHLA. Zanny Guy, Finn Spencer, and Axel Gerard. And tell you what, a little bit earlier this morning, we caught up with Axel, the Axe. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, for this comp I took my 560, the pure. So I took this foil for his speed, so it's really nice and his low end. And I'm able to take a really good speed on my curve. and I take the mast, the 85 UHM, so it's really stiff, so it's really nice on the carve, and also when you land it's really efficient. And on the stabilizer I took the 150. For the carve it's really I have really good maneuverability, so yeah, really good setup for wave riding, especially here with like really long waves where you can get some really nice turn. Yeah, so let's see how it goes for the comp.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, as we're going to be moving through to that heat number 3. Good to catch up with Axel, giving us the ins and the out of his AFS foil. But at the moment, we have AP flag is in the sky. We will be starting very shortly. All right, so as soon Murphy's Law, as soon as I said that, AP flag is down now. So red flag is going to be coming up in 1 minute. So 3 minutes until we start. Axel, obviously one of the favorites in this heat, but also Finn Spencer. You know this guy really well. Tell me about him, Aiden.
I do know Finn really well, and it's been really cool to watch his innovation and his style, his speed he carries through his waves from start to finish, and his ability to think. You watch these boys, there's a few of them, they grow up on Maui, and we're starting to get about 4 of them here now, all from that same area, and the same age group. Growing up together, they're pushing each other, and they're trying to see what they can do next in the sport, and Finn's one of those 3 or 4 that are here, and it's going to be exciting to see what they can put down.
No, it really isn't. Also, it's one thing that amazes me with wingfoiling, every single time I come, they're just getting younger and younger. I mean, after parties have been, turned in from beers to milk.
100%. And Finn is... But, Cash, Bazzola as well. We've got Otis, and we've got Liam Corral. I think they're all from that Hawaii area, and so... That red flag, we got, 1 minute, 2 minutes to go now?
Yeah. Flag goes down, the yellow comes up, it's going to be 1, and then of course green only means one thing, go, go, go. So number 1 of the competition, if you're just joining us, GWA Wingfoil World Cup over here in Dakhla, Morocco. And they're right on the point, the West Point Hotel. A big shout out to Driss and Lila for making this event happen. It's so cool to come back here. This is probably one of the oldest events we have had on tour. From the very beginnings of the tour, we've been here. And yep, there you go. So we are off as we are getting ourselves going. That was Finn, yellow flag, so less than a minute. So just warming up, getting loosey-goosey out there.
You can just see that style, that speed he carries through in and out of the wave, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he carries it out through the entire heat.
All right, so there it is. 18 minutes of action. Top 2 waves are the ones that are going to count. We have a 12 wave count. Zanny Guy, Finn Spencer, Axel, Gerard. So we are about to go. So there it is as we continue on for this heat number 3.
We got Wesley Brito, I think, analysing his heat with his teammates in there, and these boys are starting to search for what waves are going to come in. 12 waves in 18 minutes is you're going to be quite selective out there, especially with the wingfoil, how quickly you can get back out to the back of the lineup. It's I think the first 2, they're going to get under their belt, they're going to get comfortable, get some nice scores on the board, and then really it's picking those nice waves that are going to run all the way through and figuring out which ones those are. Though everyone's been training here for the last few days, it's been a little flatter, but I think we're really going to see what these boys can put down and who can come out on top after this heat. So it looks like we're riding on 4.5 meter wings, depending on the rider. We've got a few smaller guys here, so I think they're on the smaller side of 4 meter wings. And as we heard from Axel's setup earlier, riding an 85 mast. We've got Zany on the same 85, and I think Finn is on a shorter mast. So it's going to be interesting to see how each of those guys go on their mast, especially with how shallow it's getting on that inside.
Yeah, I just have been talking to the guys. Even though it says 0-0-0 up there, looks like they're having a bit of a scoring issue. So we will. This heat is on at the moment. I can say it is looking like Finn is in the lead, just waiting for that information to come in. It will be updating. Being out in the desert, internet connection can be tricky. So hopefully that will be happening very soon. There you can see. Now we are just about to get ready. So mast length's definitely one of the main questions that were coming out here. I've seen a couple of people over here on the stream saying that you're going to need short masts. I mean, be good for dodging some of the rocks out there as well, eh, Aiden?
It is. It's actually this year in comparison to last year. We had a lot of rocks on the inside last year, and this year the sand's really built over the top of that. But I think what's exciting here is we're seeing these guys show us what's possible in these size waves. We all think that picture perfect waves are what do we expect, but most of you guys ride in these perfect conditions, or these not perfect conditions, but these smaller conditions, or something that's not perfect, and trying to see what you can do to make the most of it is quite exciting. And it's still a 300-meter point break, as Tom talked about earlier, so it gives you a lot of time to really optimize and throw in a few different things, from laydowns to surf style riding, all the way through from top to the bottom.
Alright, and there you can see the adjustment out there already. So we are just coming in 15 minutes to go out of the 18 for this heat number 3. Athletes at the moment, we've got about 18 to 20 knots, and some of the gusts are out on a 4.5 meter wings, would you say?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah, 4 meter, I'm thinking, on the smaller guys, and some of the bigger guys are going to be on a 4.5. You don't want too big of a wing because it just kind of pushes a little bit offshore, and especially in the smaller swell, you don't want to be caught with too big in your hand that you can't stay on the face anymore.
Yeah, at the moment, definitely, wave selection is going to be key because conditions are marginal, to say the least, out there. At the moment here, we can see that is going to be Zany. So tell me a little bit about his setup. Obviously, he's out there on the Armstrong gear. What's he riding?
So yeah, Zany is riding a 40-liter board. He is on a 795 or an 865 mast. I didn't quite get to see what he took out before the session. Then he's riding an MA 800 foil with a Surf 205 tail, just giving him a little bit more push through the tail and a little bit more drive through the turns.
Alright, and there we can see Finn from Canada, Finn Spencer, using completely different styles. You can see him holding onto the wing at all times, and now he's going to be going into the pure. So variety, showing different aspects of it, but there's any very nice wave, couple nice re-entries there.
100%. He just got a little bit hung up on that shallow on the inside, but wow, Finn over the top of that section, and there he goes again, getting that speed up. And what can he throw in this last little section?
Yeah, he makes the most of it. He definitely got round the top. Nice little roundhouse here, back to the power section of the ripple. Not going to call it a wave, we're going to call it a ripple at the moment.
And I think what you see that Finn does really well is he stays low for most of the heat. He really drives that power through the legs into the foil, which allows him to carry that speed through the turns.
Yeah, no, you can really see him making, really using it as well in that pure surf style. Just waiting to see if I can get a gear update on him. We definitely know he's out there on the Unit D-Lab from Duotone. If I'm not mistaken, he's probably going to be on the D-Lab Master as well. I'm going to say maybe the 525 or 600 seems to be the average kind of front wing size that the athletes are out there on there so far.
I know they're riding the 650 yesterday, I'm pretty sure, but I think they were talking about upsizing a little bit today to be able to ride smaller wings in their hands so that they had a little bit less drag on the face, but still had that flow and connectivity on their foils.
Yeah, there we can see him definitely on the Aerocarve 2.0. And just waiting, we are getting information in. I reckon it probably is going to be the 650 because the next one up will be an 850, so that is going to be too big. So I'm going to say Finn is going to be out there on the 650, and then we saw this man here, Axel Gerard, gave us the ins and the out, and they're also on his AFS wing, looking like a 4.5, but obviously Axel, one of the lighter athletes.
100%, which means you can get up on smaller gear, smaller conditions. That's what we saw in the earlier heat. Wesley Brito trying to ride those smaller foils, being a bigger guy. It makes it a little bit trickier to really get those turns and connections, and still hold that speed through the swell.
Yeah, we can see here on the stream, Stanton High, what are they even scoring? Yeah, it is definitely hard to score out there at the moment because conditions are light, to say the least. And I can see out of the corner of my eye here, I think someone's getting ready down there. Aiden's getting a nice little photo in here. Is that going to be the Bazzola? Is it
that
the
is going to be Bazzola versus Austin Tovey that's coming up in the next heat. I think that's going to be a really good one. A wild card, Austin Tovey is coming in for his first heat at a GWA event. And really sort of just trying to figure out how he should ride. And we've seen in the surf what he can really put down and some of his slide 360s and everything. So it's going to be interesting what he can do in this size swell, but I think he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, so we're waiting for scores to drop in. We do apologise that it does look like there is an issue with the connection at the judge tower. Going to have to throw that hamster another carrot to see if that is going to be making their way through. And we have, yeah, it was official, as we said before. It was Leon Shell who is going to be. And then so Wesley Brito. So it looks like there was a changing of the scores last moment. So Wesley Brito making it through in first position of that last heat. Second position is going to be Leon, and third position Austin. So Brito bringing it out on that last wave, taking the win. He's going to be moving his way through to the round number 3. So he's going to be happy because looking at the time, it is now 4 o'clock. Dark is by 8. They could almost be safely saying they won't be riding until tomorrow.
I think so. I think the round 1, it'll be pushing it in these conditions, especially for an elimination round, and then next one, I think they're going to go through. They've got this first round, got some scoring in, starting to see how everyone's riding, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Alright, so just coming up on a little bit under 10 minutes. Axel Gerard, roundhouse all the way over the top now, trying to make a little floater, a little bit of foam ride, but goes down. Was that the sand or was that the wave?
I think the way he went down there, it looks like the sand. It looks like he's just you got to stay a little bit higher on the mast. You can't be riding it right flat on the water. It's it's one of those tricky things in this depth that we're playing in that a lot of the guys aren't used to. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can throw down.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things that they're saying as well is that we might be completing round number 1 of the men and then be moving over to our sister tour, the GKA Kite World Tour, because obviously with the kiting, they can go a little bit easier on the lower tide conditions because they don't need to have as much depth to be able to continue on. So that could be a possibility. And here, as you can see, the beach starting to fill up with all of the locals wanting to see what's happening. And if I'm not mistaken, it was looking like, yeah, it is going to be waiting for those scores to be updated. But it's looking like it is going to be Axel Gerard. So yeah, 8.70. So you can see definitely a few glitches in the system for some reason. But adding it all up, Finn Spencer with an 8.0.
Wow.
So it is going to, yeah, so scores are being updated as we stand. But yeah, let's go into the action. As you can see, Finn Spencer, he is active. Estamos activo, as they would say down there in the DR. Oh, and just really nice start. Oh, breaches it out on the roundhouse as well.
It's just that control he's showing through all of those maneuvers and the speed he's carrying through. He's just never letting a dull moment. He's not sitting there at all. He's making sure that he's using all the wave to his optimal potential he can, and that's why he got that 8 point in that first wave that he got, and now it'll be interesting to see what he gets out of this wave.
Alright, so we're coming to that middle 7.5 minutes to go here. Heat number 3, round number 1. And here we can see the replay. All the way around, judges are really going to be liking this because, you know, decent wave selection, you know, there is pretty much nothing out there. So if you can get on something, you're already one step ahead. Making it all the way around, joining a couple of the sections, he is definitely going to be, he is our leader as we're waiting for those scores to be updated. But I've got a little bit more information than you guys and girls back home can see on screen. So it is, at the moment, it is looking like Finn Spencer's going to be in first position. In second position is going to be Zanny Guy, and in third, Axel Gerard, but so close in between Zanny and Axel. So, yeah, top 2 waves count. 12 waves are the ones that they are going to be able to go on. And one of the things the judges were saying, Aiden, was if there's intention, it's going to count as a wave. And what the judges count as intention is if they go into that surfing position and hold the wing from the leading edge handle.
100%. And we're looking there. Zane's going hard on that one. He's really working this. He's got a nice wave setting up. I think he just lost a little bit on that without turning back, but it's setting up for another section, so he might not be over yet. Yeah, wrap that right back.
Flowy all the way down.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit small there on the inside. He got a good section out there.
And he is going to be plowing the field if he's not careful. This is where it starts to get really shallow. And he is pushing that forward to the very bottom. Going to be risking it, going for an air. I don't know how he pulled that one off. But yeah, judge is going to like that. Linking, 2 of the 3 sections together. Can't get much more out of that. Milking it until the end. Nice riding there from him.
That was great. Great score, hopefully. And we'll see what happens. Finn really got on that second wave we saw. There was a 7.0. So 7 and an 8. He's off to a good start. 15 total. That's pretty cool to see. Axel Gerard is sitting on an 8.7, and we have Zaney currently. He's still waiting for that 1 score to drop, but he's sitting on an 8.
And here you can see the vibe down there on the beach, Aiden. People are starting to get excited, coming to see the best of the best in the wingfoiling world and see what this sport is. It's so cool. There's such curiosity. People that had never seen some of the water sports ever, and they come up, it's like, what's this, how does it work, waving? It's really cool to see that brand new energy. And hopefully there can be some future Moroccan generation, some of the young kids. We have a few clinics throughout the year as well, and a few clinics here at this event where riders are going to show them a little bit and see if they can get into the sport. And then obviously the Lagoon Association they have here, helping some of the young and underprivileged kids to be able to get involved in both kiting and wingfoiling together with lino and drift. It's a really, really cool whole community they got down here, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing some future Moroccan rippers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. It's real cool to see how they help those youth come through and bring up the next talent, and it's inspiring seeing these guys out here. And so realizing that you have world champions of a certain sport is the level is so high, and seeing how these guys can put down and what they can do in these conditions, knowing that this is their home spot and they can come down here and do the same thing when no one else is here, and it's pretty inspiring.
All right, so here we can see that it's going to be Zanny from Cape Verde out there with the Armstrong and the blue Lycra, making his way all the way up to the top of the competition area. And now, just having a little look. Scores count with wing powered now. Well, scores will count with the wing powered unless you make an air. That is how the rulebook is at the moment. It is the big question.
Yeah.
It's one of the big question on scoring is, are they going to be allowed to use the wing powered and do an air or not? It's one of the things I know the committee is looking into. But as the rulebook states, if you air with both hands on the power section, the wave will not count from there onwards, but what you've surfed before will count.
100%. And you can still do those powered up maneuvers, lay down jibes, all that kind of stuff, and that has been the same rule for the last sort of 2 years that they've been going for the pure wave. So yeah, it's just that getting the air and doing aerial maneuvers with the wing is not allowed in this. So
yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think airs are out of the picture almost, because really that second section is where it's holly. But here, Zanny, all the way from the top of the point right in front of the Pescador restaurant. So already got 2 nice turns on. This one actually looks like it's got a nice little bit of a face. So great wave selection from here. Definitely one step ahead of the rest of the guys so far. Can he make it work? Yes, he does. Airs. Now we're talking.
That was beautiful across that section. Really being critical there. Wasn't just a jump on the flats, it was really over the section. I think he is going to get a good score from that. The judges are going to like that. Finn is also out there throwing just behind, so it looks like a set's come in and these guys are capitalizing. 2 minutes to go. It's probably going to be the ones. They're going to want to milk this all the way in to see what scores they can really pull out of that.
Yeah, so Finn in the lead so far. He's got 10 plus. We can see Zanny's second position, but this is definitely going to be a big score for Zanny. Going to increase on one of the two scores that he has out there. 4.40, 4.23 for Zanny. We have for Finn an 8.0 for that first wave, and then a 2.87. So Finn definitely showing the judges what they want to see. Getting caught up a little bit there, didn't you? Like Wing kind of turned around on him. But yeah, both of the guys, similar styles.
100%. He did throw an aerial 360 in the middle there, so that was pretty exciting to see. These boys are really making the most. It's amazing when you see that just a little bit extra face rock up, that what they can capitalize and push through.
All right, so we are just about to come up on the final minute, waiting for numbers to be dropped for those last waves. But it is looking like Finn has the advantage so far. Here we can see that replay. Right back to the power section.
Oh, no, it wasn't. It was just an aerial with a big tweak on it.
Yeah, nice little tweak off there. I'm going to say Zanny's was better at the beginning, but it was at the beginning of his heat. Let's see how they made it happen. Going to be an interesting one to score. At the moment, we got a 4.15 versus a 7.0. Here we can see our judges' towers. There we can see Daniel Jimenez, Alvaro Nieva, Mari de la Villamaque, Rui Meida, Paulino Pereira, and Julian Kernier, and the Hamada Titi are judging compadres in the booth. Nice front row seats, 30 seconds to go. Who is going to take this one? It's all going to come down to those last waves, I reckon.
I think so. I think they might find something in this last sort of 20 seconds, but it's pretty limiting. From last year, we had a lot of seaweed in the water. It seems like there's a lot less this year, which is pretty exciting, and definitely makes the spot a little bit easier to ride in these smaller conditions. I think with that sand base that we've got at the moment, it's kind of covered a lot of those rocks, because it was quite slimy sort of seaweed. It's kind of off the moss, but covering those rocks, I think we've covered it all up, and we're getting some pretty good riding out there.
Yeah, really nice to see. So waiting for final wave to drop. At the moment, Finn Spencer is your current leader. We will know the official result as we come right back. Let's see a couple of the highlights from that last heat. Welcome back, everybody. So we have official results. It is going to be Finn Spencer who took the win on that last heat with the highest combination score of a 16.67 and the best wave of the day with an 8.67. It looks like he is locked into what the judges want to see.
100%. That was exciting to see. I heard you caught up with Cash Bazzola earlier. Let's see what he has to say.
There you go. Let's go down to the beach with Cash.
Standing down here, DAKHLA with Cash Brazola. Cash, welcome. It looks like we're going to have some conditions. Hopefully when the tide pushes up, we're going to see some waves. You are currently second at the moment. How are you feeling? Where's the fire?
I'm feeling good. You know, I feel really good in second place and super stoked to be here in DAKHLA. We have some pretty small waves today, but I think we're going to make it work and get it started.
So Cash, you're known for your innovation, you know, sliding it out, getting the airs. You are definitely one of the athletes that everybody is looking forward to go. So especially after that Jaws reel you sent out yesterday. Out to lunch, mate.
Yeah, you know, innovative and just kind of pushing the sport is kind of my goal right now, and a lot of it is just having fun, and I feel like I do my best when I'm having fun. So, you know, the goal for the heat is to go out and have the best time that I possibly can.
So Cash, obviously the waves here are a little bit softer. There's a couple of sections, you know, especially here right behind us, West Point. There's kind of a top section, then it flattens out, and then you have a little bit more hollower section. When the waves are there, which hopefully once, as we said before, with the push, it's going to happen. What kind of gear you ride and what do you use to be able to get those 10-point rides?
Yeah, you know, I change up my setup a lot. Back home I don't, but coming here I definitely do. I change my front wing to be a little bit bigger because the wave is a little bit more mushy and there's just not as much power. So it is a factor that everyone is considering, and we're just going to have to adapt and make the best of it.
Well, there it is. Cash Brazola, good luck, mate. I will see you out there on the water.
It's always good to catch up with Crash. Such a character in and off the water. And the thing I love about this young man, he just has positive energy 24/7.
He really does. He's just there and having a good time.
All right, so now moving into this heat, so coming out there on the water, we are going to be having Austin Tovey, Liam Corrali, and Cash Brazola. So it is United States Stars and Stripes all the way.
3 guys from the US. I suppose if they're versing each other in this round, they're not going to verse each other for a little while after this. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, let's not forget we have, the top athlete, the athlete that wins will be going through in first position. Then it will make it all the way through to round number 3. Then the bottom 2, so second and third position, will make it into round number 2, where they will have to battle it out because that is going to be the first elimination scenario for those athletes. So only one can prevail and continue on. So at the moment there you can see with the orange lycra, that is going to be Liam Corrali, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, as your F1 rider. Airing it off on the bottom already. These guys mean business.
They do. Sure do.
Alright, so let's have a little look and see some of those scores being updated so far. But I'm going to say it is definitely going to be Liam Corrali at the moment in the lead. So I'm waiting for more numbers to be coming our way. So Cash Brazola 4.27, Liam Corrali of 3.43. And then we have a 2.07 for Austin. That is going to be your totals. So it is going to be Cash Brazola in the lead so far. Nice start there for the young Maori boy. Looks like Austin's on a bigger wing as well. I mean, would that make sense, obviously, because, you know, Cash is, let's say, a smaller guy, but he does like to go powered.
Yeah, Austin's gear hasn't turned up, so he's borrowing a little bit of everyone's at the moment. And I think he is borrowing one of Bowen's spare wings, a little bit bigger size that she would normally use, just because as you go through, it's tricky on that sort of thing, making sure you don't have any damage or anything like that. So he's using that at the moment, and yeah. It's always tricky adapting to each gear, but luckily we've got a decent team here this year. And you see there's sort of 5 riders from Armstrong, so they can all share out their gear and sort of make it work between them.
I think that's really important as well, because, you know, you're not teammates, you're family.
Exactly.
And it's, you know, I think that's one of the things we can really see with, you know, the Armstrong family is everybody is super, you know, super down to earth and, you know, in between each other, always hanging out together. There's not any one-man show, and we will be enjoying and seeing the action out there on the water. Alright, so in the lead, Cash, your man out there right now as well, throwing it out and making it happen.
He sure is. And even Austin too, they're both throwing this aerial game. You're starting to really see that as we come through, sort of the calves and the aerial game being put together and really putting down some scores. It's going to be interesting to see how this lineup just went between these two.
Yeah, Cash kind of, mixing the pure surfing style together with, breaching the foil there. You can see sliding the foil off the top. Multiple airs. Oh,
it looked like it came down on the ground there. That was a bit shallow on that inside.
It did. It's the old tightrope. Got hit by the tightrope. And here we can see Liam Karate as well. So currently in second position, 8.13. We were just waiting for scores to update. But still, so it's going to be Cash Bazzola, Liam Karate, and Austin Tovey are going to be your top 3 positions so far out there. Just getting wind readings in between 15 to 18 knots. Even some gusts of 21. So wind is increasing as we have 11 minutes to go of this heat. 18-minute heats. Top 12 waves. And then the top 2 waves are the ones that count.
Cool.
Alright, so coming up in 10 minutes. Alright, Cash dropping in. One of the things I noticed with Cash, he just produces so much speed.
So much power too. Like, he drives that turn and accelerates him so much harder as he comes out of each turn versus what he comes into each turn with. And that's what those foils as well, a lot of these foils on the smaller sizes in those mid aspect really like to be driven hard so that they can accelerate as they come out of those turns.
Yeah, you can see it's also, you can see that back foot pressure. He, really drives and pushes his way through. Then also a nice, kind of skatey style here. We can see Liam, your F1 rider here with the orange lycra front and center. Looks like, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be out there on the skate.
Yeah, I think he's on the 650. That's what he's been riding the last few days.
Seems to be the going size out there at the moment isn't going to be in between the 600s to 650. It seems kind of the go-to front wing so far for everybody. And then, Mast, we saw the like of Vinny, who was out there in 85s, and then we're seeing some shorter Masts as well. But it seems like that's kind of the setup. And then with the wind we have out here at the moment, 5s for some of the guys. So that's the equipment that we can see out on the water so far. At the moment, it is my boy Cash Bazzola in first position. I mean, Aiden, conditions out there, man. It is not easy. You are really, getting the old, 4-leaf clover, leprechaun, and rainbow to try and see if a set will come your way in a heat. It is on the limit.
It is, and it is one of those things, though, that these top guys, they make the most of every section they get, and they make it look way better than it really is from our perspective looking on the beach. We go, wow, it's an okay wave, and then you watch these guys rip on it, and you're like, if I was there standing with my wing gear, I'd be like, oh, get me out there, that looks epic. But these guys really are working it today and really showing the critical aspect of how to ride a foil in these smaller conditions and optimize for both keeping your speed and power. As Alvaro said earlier in the judging criteria, it's all about the speed, power, dynamic, getting those critical sections. So that's what these boys are putting together, and they're putting down some good scores, and yeah.
And especially, it's also very hard on the judging side as well, because I think, when conditions are like this, to guarantee you getting that better score than someone else, apart from the obvious is surfing a better wave, is picking a better wave. If you can get that wave selection dialed in and take off on one that is considerably better than the rest, judges are going to look at it in a different way.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's really tricky to tell. Every break has its own tells of which waves are going to sort of, if they sit a little bit wider, like those waves, okay, they're going to run all the way through the beach, or, okay, if it picks up here and over on that rock on the outside there, if that breaks over that one, we're going to get a set coming in through here. So
Yeah.
it's all about reading that. And coming from a surf background, with all three of these boys they have that knowledge and that insight that they start to see and read those waves really well. And make sure they're in the right place to not miss the optimal section, because that optimal section could only be around for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you've got to read it and be like, okay, I've used it and I was in the right spot, because you can be off the edge of the shoulder and you miss that
and you
perfect spot.
miss that opportunity. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, doors wide open, but also, DAKHLA is a downwind paradise as well. I know you know yourself, you were very into downwinding as well, and I've seen some of the boys also brought a lot of the downwind equipment. Tell me about that, because it is something that is really coming up on the market, and it is a lot of fun.
It really is. We're seeing it over the last sort of couple of years, the downwinding, and honestly, the downwinding has been around. A video came out of Kai 10 years ago doing it on his cut down sup, and then it took a little bit of a toll and slowed down when everyone was trying to figure out foils. But as winging's become a bigger market and people have started to optimize foils, especially in these last sort of 2 years, with having better ability to get up on them and ride on them, it's allowed people to paddle up in more in trickier conditions all around the world. And downwinding's that free feeling, that hey, suddenly I might surf. I'm not into wind sports, but I can't surf when it's blowing out, but I can downwind down the coast. And you start to see a lot of pro surfers get into that as a secondary ability to wrap turns and have fun in the ocean when they couldn't surf because it's blowing out.
Yeah, and it just opens new avenues as well. I mean, what is the reason of all these different disciplines? Is so we can have fun in all different conditions, because everybody, not everybody has a perfect break, not everybody has an onshore, an offshore, a cross shore, head high, ankle high, toe high that we have out here at the moment. I think to be able to have the quiver and open it up is just gonna have more hours on the water having fun. I mean, look at this, Liam catching up, nice selection here. This is one of the better face waves we've seen so far. We're going to be rocking this one all the way down. Nice there off the top. Just missing out on that N6. That was a shame, because that was racking up to be a very nice wave.
It's just that little bit how technically you play it, and it definitely can cost you if you go a little bit too hard, a little bit too early.
And Cash dropping in there as well, staying on the higher section of the wave just to make sure, because there are quite a few shallow sections. So having a look at the scores at the moment, your leader in the white, Cash Mazzola, coming out of the USA. We have in second position is going to be Aloha Corral, and then in third is Austin Tovey. So your top three so far, as we are just coming up on 4 minutes to go. Alright, so just under 3 minutes to go. Alright, so just coming up on 2.5 minutes to go, as we are going to be closing out this heat number 4 of round number 1. The idea is to get through round number 1 of competition here on the men's, and then we will see if we continue on with the men's or not. Also coming new to the tour, coming up next, we're going to have Kapono Fukala, the one coming all the way from Japan. So cool to see athletes from all the way around the world joining us down here in Morocco. It's so cool to see the different nations, and as we were saying at the beginning of the stream, 24 men and 11 women join us here in DAKHLA in front of West Point to see who's going to be the king and the queen of the desert.
That is exciting to see all these different places coming in. We have had a lot of events in the last couple of years between your North America and Brazil, Brazil and Europe, and to start seeing some people come over from Japan and Hawaii, and getting all those guys really starting to come through and show like, oh, this is an epic event to come to. It's pretty exciting to see. Whoa, Cash there, hitting that lip. There he goes, pushing all the way through to the inside. Little air, and hits that sand.
Yeah, it's that inside section. It really does get them. I mean, Cash is 5 foot something, and you can see the water's already, below his knee. That is about as shallow as it gets.
100%. And he's riding a short mast too. He's riding a 795, so it really is showing how shallow it is. And luckily it's sand on the bottom there, so the guys are pushing it. But yeah. There we go. Austin on one out the outside. I think this is probably the last wave they're going to be able to get for the day.
Yeah, that is just coming up. We're about 40 seconds to the end of this heat, as we are coming up yet 30 seconds to go. And as I said, coming up next, we're going to have Kapona Fukuda. Has a big SUP background, and one of the things I've seen of this young man is he is very good on the air. So looking forward to see him coming and competing here for the first time. And as we say, so cool to see athletes from all different corners of the globe joining us here for your GWA Wingfoil World Tour. And waiting for confirmation on final scores, but so far it is Cash Bazzola is going to be in first, second position Liam Corral, and third is going to be Austin Tovey. So those are going to be your 1, 2 and 3, and we were going to be waiting for final confirmation. Let's have a look at the highlights of that last heat.
faire gagner le sport.
And welcome back, everybody. So unfortunately, as we have seen, it is too shallow on the inside section, so they're going to be calling it for a day here in round number 1. Results of that last heat, it was Cash Bazzola who's taken the win, making his way through to round number 3. Not the call we wanted to see, but I think it is definitely the right one to do due to the conditions out there.
I think so. Looking on that inside, seeing those guys at the end, they're really starting to push, and they're just hitting that sand, even when they're just setting up for those tricks. And so it was just sort of, okay, I think it's time to call it, and those guys definitely made the right decision. And I look forward to seeing in the next few days when that swell comes through and seeing what these guys can put out. So
yeah, I mean, it's really impressive to see, even with the small size of the waves, we can see, you know, they are carving. We've seen a few of the jumps. We already started to, let's say, see some of the riders that are shining a little brighter.
Yeah.
And, you know, always, the top athletes will make anything work. But yeah, I think definitely that is the right course. So unfortunately, that is going to be it for day number 1 down here for the GWA Wingfoiling World Tour here at your World Cup in Dakhla. I'm Josie Ashton. Aiden, thank you very much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow as conditions are looking to be good. So make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels. We will be giving you the ins and the outs and the start times. But also, it looks like we're going to be changing over to our sister tour of the GK Kite World Tour with the kite surf discipline, because obviously their fins are this big. So some of those shallow sections they're going to be able to get through.
100%. They're going to make it work when we couldn't. So it's going to be interesting to see.
So more action coming at you. We're going to be starting with the kite surfing in about an hour. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.
GWA Wingfoiling World Tour event.
We're gonna experience an insane wingfoil competition.
This one is gonna stay in my mind forever.
It's gonna be sick.
What are we going to be seeing next?